Having learned a bit about the workings of men and women, I wondered if I hadn't come close to guessing the truth. Though our household was never prosperous, it was, for the most part, quiet, content. Laurette's father worked for different farmers, hiring himself out during the shearing season and throughout the year, mending fences and whatever day labor he could get. Always it was enough to feed us and allow him nights at the tavern to drink up the rest. Our mothers did village work, too, carding great sacks of wool, teaching both of us the art as soon as our hands were big enough to fit the wooden paddles. Laurette never mastered the skill, but I loved any moment my hands were occupied with creating. Mother would barter old clothes from the ragman and spend winter evenings cutting and mending, turning women's skirts into boys' breeches and old nightshirts into christening gowns, edged with lace tatted from spinners' scraps. I was too young to take note of all the changes as they happened. Realization dawned that we had less money, less food, less everything. I understood the years of drought and the toll they took on the local harvests, but I had no concept of the role the king played in the slow death of our town. I didn't know he took good grazing land and gave it to the church. I didn't know he imposed taxes beyond what my neighbors could pay. Therefore, I didn't understand the hopelessness that would drive Laurette's father to kill her mother in a drunken rage, nor the hanging that left us equally fatherless. Even more, I could not fathom a grief that would cause my mother to simply walk away one night, leaving us equally orphaned. I was 10, Laurette was 12, and we lived for nearly 2 months on the scraps of a neighbor's charity before anyone else even knew she was gone. Émile Gagnon found us. Rather, we found him. I would guess that his flock still numbered 500 head at the time, and Laurette hoped we would find work in his kitchen, in his fields. Winter was coming, and we had nothing to fill our bellies or warm our hearth. We'd heard him one day at the inn, Le Cochon Gros, the same place that slacked my uncle's thirst and nourished his anger. Gagnon was lifting a toast to the fine price he'd fetched for his wool, wishing a blessing on the carders and spinners, the weavers and tailors who take the humble offerings of his sheep and make clothing fit for a king. Think of it, spun fine and stretched over the queen's legs, one of his fellow drinkers said, the rest of his comment spoken low and drowned out by raucous laughter. It was Laurette who approached Gagnon. Looking back now, I realize what a young man he was. Everybody in town spoke of him with such glowing reverence. He might have been a founder, but he was only 22, old enough to laugh at an off-color joke, but young enough to be embarrassed by it. He, too, was an orphan, if a grown man could be called such, having inherited his farm when his parents died in quick succession of a fever. Not a year later, he became a widower, losing his young wife and newborn child within an hour of each other. While some men might have turned bitter in the wake of so much loss, Émile Gagnon grew stronger. He had turned away, a blush on his cheek, when Laurette walked right up to him. "It's a fine thing," she said, "to ship everything away and leave nothing for your poor neighbors who are facing a winter with our dresses worn clean through." That very evening, we had a new home in Gagnon's barn, the small one meant only to house his milk cows and dogs. It smelled of sweet hay and felt warm with straw-stuffed ticks and feather pillows waiting in the loft. The walls were thick, the roof solid shingles, and while Gagnon said he wouldn't